Chanting of Mangalacharya prayers. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swavadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahidam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitanscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratushe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostate Taptakanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarobhyascha कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमोस्तुते व्यासविशालबुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्रे येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वलितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्न परिजाताय स्तोत्रवैत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। So welcome you all once again. Thank you for joining on time. We are studying Bhagavad-Gita as it is, chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized, also known as Sankhya Yoga. And so far we learned about the difference between soul and body. Also, Krishna spoke about doing one's duties. Even if one wants to get material happiness, the only way to do that is to do one's duties. And then Krishna has now come to telling Arjuna about performing one's duties with detachment, also known as Nishkama Karma. In verse 39 of chapter 2, Krishna introduced a term which is Buddhi Yoga, the yoga of attitude. And he says that if you function in this attitude, Arjuna, then nothing will make you entangle in this cycle of birth and death. You'll become free from karma. So now verse number 40 onwards, Krishna is going to talk about the about this Buddhi Yoga. How it benefits us. What is this Buddhi Yoga? What are the obstacles in the execution of this Buddhi Yoga? Okay, so Krishna is going to instruct in that. It's a very famous verse, 2.40. Srila Prabhupada quoted this verse quite often when he preached Krishna consciousness. So, Neha Vikrama Nashosti Pratyavayo na Vidyate Swalpam Apyasya Dharmasya Trayate Mahato Bhayat. I hope you have heard this verse in Prabhupada's lectures. many times. So Neha Bhikramana Shosti. Mm. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution. The comparison is being made with the endeavors on the path of karma, the endeavors on the path of jnana. So, comparing with them, on this path, the endeavor doesn't become useless. Even if one does not complete the work on the path of karma, if you don't complete the work, the endeavor is considered useless. Or if you do it improperly, then it is considered sinful. So then there is punishment for it. But but on the path of bhakti or buddhi yoga, whatever endeavor one does, that is seen as beneficial. So in this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Hmm. Just a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. What is that most dangerous type of fear? Srila Prabhupada explains it in the purport. What is that most dangerous type of fear? Okay, I think you are not able to unmute yourself. Now you can. Yes. What is that most dangerous type of fear?
It fall into animal life.
Yeah, fall into animal life. To be born as an animal in the next life. That is the most dangerous type of fear. Of course, in Kali Yuga, some people are so low in their consciousness, they don't mind, isn't it? They don't mind. But then an intelligent person would definitely mind becoming an animal in the next life. There was one situation in which Srila Prabhupada was giving a talk to a group of, I think, students in a university. And then Srila Prabhupada was talking about this principle that if you don't become Krishna conscious, you'll have to become a cat or dog in next life. And one boy stood up from the audience and he told Srila Prabhupada, I don't mind becoming a dog in next life. I'm okay with that. And then Prabhupada said, okay, you have all of my blessings, then no problem. So there are people who can be so degraded in consciousness. But then for those who are human beings, for them it's not a very palatable desire to become an animal in the next life. And therefore it saves one from that most dangerous type of fear. Hmm. Purport. Activity in Krishna consciousness or acting for the benefit of Krishna without expectation of sense gratification is the highest transcendental quality of work. Even a small beginning of such activity finds no impediment, nor can that small beginning be lost at any stage. Any work begun on the material plane has to be completed. Otherwise, the whole attempt becomes a failure. Like you start making a building, you don't complete the building, you leave it in between, it's useless. No one can use it anyway. Then you start a yajna, you make some preparations, you don't complete the yajna, and the endeavor is useless. But any work begun in Krishna consciousness has a permanent effect, even though not finished. The performer of such work is therefore not at a loss, even if his work in Krishna consciousness is incomplete. Hmm. 1% done in Krishna consciousness bears permanent results, so that the next beginning is from the point of 2%. Whereas in material activity, without 100% success, there is no profit. Ajamal performed his duty in some percentage of Krishna consciousness, but the result he enjoyed at the end was 100% by the grace of the Lord. There's a nice verse in this connection in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.17. Tyaktva swadharmam charanambujam hare भजन् पक्वोऽथ पतेत् ततो यदि यत्र क्व वा भद्रम् अभूत् अमुष्यकिम् को वार्थ आप्तो भजतां सुधर्मतः. If someone gives up his occupational duties and works in Krishna consciousness and then falls down on account of not completing his work, what loss is there on his part? And what can one gain if one performs his material duties or activities perfectly? Or as the Christians say, What profiteth a man if he gain the whole world, yet suffer the loss of his eternal soul? Material activities and their results end with the body, but work in Krishna consciousness carries a person again to Krishna consciousness, even after the loss of the body. At least one is sure to have a chance in the next life of being born again as a human being, either in the family of a great cultured Brahmana or in a rich aristocratic family that will give one a further chance for elevation. That is the unique quality of work done in Krishna consciousness. So, so, in the last paragraph, we see Srila Prabhupada is saying, work in Krishna consciousness carries a person again to Krishna consciousness. Hmm? This means that bhakti is born from bhakti. So, if you do bhakti in this life, it is going to bring us opportunities to do bhakti in the next life. And second, he is taking from chapter 6 that if someone is performing yoga in this life and is not successful, then that person gets more favorable circumstances or situations in the next life to perform yoga. Mm. That is given in chapter 6. So sometimes, some devotees, they, due to coming from very unfavorable circumstances, struggle a lot to practice Krishna consciousness. And they get demoralized because they think that I'm not going to get the ultimate result of going back home, back to Godhead in this life. Hmm? So for them also, these verses or these explanations are very hope giving, because if their present birth or present situation is not allowing them in some ways to become fully Krishna conscious, at least their practice in the present life will give them a more favorable situation or birth in the next life. Hmm? Like I'm talking about, like people who are born, let's say some devotees are from China, you know, and um, they are very sincere. They are very steady also sometimes in the Krishna consciousness. But just because they are not able to complete Krishna consciousness in this life, if they don't go back home, back to Godhead, Krishna will give them a birth in a more favorable, environment in the next life, where they can practice bhakti more easily, nicely, right? So therefore, bhakti for anyone in any situation is beneficial, and one can always have this, you can say, sense of happiness executing bhakti, that one is making one's future very bright. Mm. Faults in only karma, you can see in this mm, diagram. Karma, when incomplete, then there's loss. Like we give you example of incomplete building, incomplete yajna. And karma, when it is imperfect, then it is considered sinful. But in case of bhakti, both don't apply. Even if bhakti is incomplete, no loss. Even if bhakti is imperfect, no sin. Hmm. There's no sin in imperfect bhakti. Like if I don't chant Hare Krishna attentively, is that sinful activity? No, it's not a sin, right? Of course, attentive chanting will give me complete result, but inattentive chanting cannot be called as sinful, right? Whereas when you do karma, basic karma, then if it's imperfectly done, it is considered sinful. That means there is going to be suffering for that. Hmm. But in case of bhakti, that is not true. Yes, Sharda Mataji.
Uh, Prabhu, what does Nam Aparad fall into then? Is it sin or is it
Namaprad is not sin. Aparad is not sin. Aparad and sin are two different things.
okay?
Sin is something which has to do with your material life. Aparad is something which has to do with your spiritual life. You know. So Because of sin, there is going to be material elevation or material fall. Like if I done a sinful activity, then I'm going to materially fall down, which means if I'm beautiful, I'll become ugly. If I'm rich, I'll become poor. If I'm born in a human form this time, next time I'll be born in an animal body. So there's a material degradation because of sin. Okay. And because of piety, there is material elevation. But what does an offense do and aparadh do? The offense brings you down spiritually, which means your consciousness degrades. Materially, it may not do much, but spiritually, your consciousness degrades. That's what an aparadh does. Mm. Next verse. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana bahushakha hyanantascha buddhayo buddhayo vyavasayinam. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose. On which path? On the path of Buddhi Yoga. They are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. Bahushakha, hi anantascha, buddhayo avyavasayinam. So those who are not in Krishna consciousness, their intelligence is bahushakha, multi-branched or many-branched, which means they have multiple desires and their intelligence is always functioning in planning of how to fulfill those material desires. That's Bahushaka intelligence, multi-branched intelligence. Mm. But then there is intelligence with one complete focus, one focus. And that intelligence is called Vyavasaya Atmika Buddhi, focused intelligence. So only a person who is executing Bhakti Yoga or Buddhi Yoga can have Vyavasaya Atmika Buddhi, one intelligence. Fine. Purport Srila Prabhupada explains what does this mean, one intelligence or Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. Let's read the purport. Vijay Mataji.
Purport. A strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the higher perfection of life is called Vyavasayatmika intelligence. The Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 22.62 states, Shraddha Sabde Vishwasa Kahe Shutrada Nischaya Krishne Bhakti Kaile Sarvakarma Krita Bhaya. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relationship to the material world with obligations to family traditions, humanity, or nationality. Fruitive activities are the engagements of one's reactions from past good or bad deeds. When one is awake in Krishna consciousness, he need no longer endeavor for good results in his activities. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, all activities are on the absolute plane, but they are no longer subject to dualities like good and bad. The highest perfection of Krishna consciousness is renunciation of the material conception of life. This state is automatically achieved by progressive Krishna consciousness. The resolute purpose of a person in Krishna consciousness is based on knowledge. Vasudeva Sarvam Itisa Mahatma Shudurlabha. A person in Krishna consciousness is, can you scroll? A person in Krishna consciousness is the rare good soul who knows perfectly that Vasudeva or Krishna is the root of all manifested causes. As by watering the root of a tree, one automatically distributes water to the leaves and branches. So, by acting in Krishna consciousness, one can render the highest service to everyone, namely self, family, society, country, humanity, etc. If Krishna is satisfied by one's actions, then everyone will be satisfied. Service in Krishna consciousness is, however, best practiced under the able guidance of a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Krishna, who knows the nature of the student and who can guide him to act in Krishna consciousness. As such, to be well versed in Krishna consciousness, one has to act firmly and obey the representative of Krishna, and one should accept the instruction of the bona fide spiritual master as one's mission in life. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura instructs us in his famous prayers for the spiritual master as follows. Yes. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, yasya prasadhanna gati kutopi, dhyayan stuvam stasya yasya strisandhyam, vande guru Sri Charanarvindam. By satisfaction of the spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes satisfied. And by not satisfying the spiritual master, there is no chance of being promoted to the plane of Krishna consciousness. I should therefore meditate and pray for his mercy 3 times a day and offer my respectful obeisances unto him, my spiritual master. The whole process, however, depends on perfect knowledge of the soul beyond the conception of the body, not theoretically but practically, when there is no longer a chance for sense gratification manifested in fruitive activities. One who is not firmly fixed in mind is diverted by various types of fruitive acts.
Thank you, Mataji. Srila Prabhupada here explains what is that uh, faith which is required for Vyavasatmika intelligence. A strong faith that by Krishna consciousness, one will get everything in life. This is a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Shraddha Shabde Vishwasa Kohe Sudrila Nishay. Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. Very simple meaning of this verse is that when one develops a faith that if I do Krishna Bhakti properly, purely, sincerely, then all my endeavors in life will become successful. I don't have to depend on other things for success in life. Krishna Bhakti is sufficient. It's sufficient. All by itself, it is sufficient. So that faith is called Vyavasayatmika intelligence. Uh, there are different types of intelligence, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says. And he says that that intelligence which starts functioning in the realm of bhakti, that intelligence is the best intelligence. Many times, we calculate people's intelligence by making them go through an IQ test. But what is that IQ test? Is that IQ test capable of telling us how intelligent that person is going to be in spiritual life or in bhakti? No. That IQ test is mostly how much that person can, manipulate material knowledge. That's all. That is the IQ test. So there are different types of intelligence. Someone may be materially very intelligent and spiritually very, very dull. And someone may be spiritually very intelligent and materially very dull. That is also possible. Mm. So that intelligence which is fixed in bhakti, that if I do bhakti, I'll get everything in my life. Everything will come to me. And therefore, my maximum endeavor should go in executing my bhakti nicely. That person can be fixed in determination. That person's determination will not waver or not change. Mm. Otherwise, anyone in the material world will have a very flickering determination. It's going to change. Mhm. But then that kind of faith is based on knowledge, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport. If we don't have this knowledge of Krishna being the essence of everything and Krishna being everything, Vasudevam Sarvam iti Samahatma. So when we don't know this, that Vasudeva is everything, then it's difficult to develop that kind of faith or that kind of focus in one's Krishna consciousness. Mm. Fine. Therefore, it is said that one should try to do that. And then Prabhupada says, let's say you are not able to do that, then best is whatever you can practice in Krishna consciousness, you practice under the able guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Mhm. And execute Krishna consciousness. Yeah. By the blessings of the spiritual master, then one will be promoted to the plane of Krishna consciousness. Next verse. Yam imam pushpitam vacham pravadanti vipaschitaha. Hmm. Just a second. प्रवदन्ति विपश्चितः वेदवादरता पार्थ नान्यदस्तीति वादिनः कामात्मानः स्वर्गपरा जन्म कर्म फलप्रदां क्रियाविशेष बहुलां भोग ऐश्वर्य गतिं प्रति. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, result in good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. Here, an example is given of those who have multi-branched intelligence, Bahushaka Buddhi. That they are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas. What is meant by flowery words of the Vedas? The Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, which tell us if you do this, you are going to get this. If you do that, you are going to get that. You worship this demigod if you want a good husband. You worship this demigod if you want a good wife. If you want good health, lots of wealth, then you do this, you do that. That's called the flowery words of the Vedas. Hmm? So, a person having multi-branched intelligence will find these statements of the Vedas very attractive, right? And would indulge in that. So, that happens because they are desirous of sense gratification and opulent life. Mm. But this is not to be considered as good intelligence or focused intelligence. That's what is being explained here. Mm.
Hare Krishna,
Purport.
Guruji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
It means that we should not accept the Vedas in totality.
Yes, so we don't really pay attention to all the sections of the Vedas. We don't study all the parts of the Vedas. Vedas
But
are
at many
vast. Vedas are vast. Vedas are compared to kalpataru, means a desire fulfilling tree, which means based on your consciousness, whatever you are seeking from the Vedas can give, right? So I will try to take the benefit of that section in which I am interested.
selective acceptance, selective select. We should select it.
Not selective in the sense that, I mean, if a particular set of instructions are given to you, you accept some and you don't accept some. Here, selective in the sense that there are levels of instructions. So, if you are not acting at the karma kanda level, you are acting at a higher level, then you should not accept the instructions at the karma kanda level.
Matlab, not selection means uh, what will be the perfect word?
Okay, I'll give you a very simple example, Prabhuji. Let's say you are a Brahmana. Okay. So Vedas talk about the duties of a Kshatriya also, right?
Hmm.
So if you are a
Right.
Brahmana, will you start following the duties of a Kshatriya? Because Vedas
Right,
are talking about it,
I got the point.
right? So you won't,
Hmm.
isn't it? Because your level is different. Your adhikar is different. Similarly, the Vedas are talking about Karma Kanda. There's Karma Kanda section, there's Jnana Kanda section. Now, based on my consciousness, I'll function at different levels.
Hmm. I got the point.
Okay?
Right.
Purport. Sharada Mataji.
People in general are not very intelligent, and due to their ignorance, they are most attached to fruitive activities recommended in the Karma Kanda portions of the Vedas. They do not want anything more than sense gratificatory proposals for enjoying life in heaven, where wine and women are available and material opulence is very common. In the Vedas, many sacrifices are recommended for elevation to heavenly planets, especially the Jyotishtoma sacrifices. In fact, it is stated that anyone desiring elevation to heavenly planets must perform these sacrifices, and men with a poor fund of knowledge think that this is the whole purpose of Vedic wisdom. It is very difficult for such inexperienced persons to be situated in a determined action of Krishna consciousness. As fools are attached to the flowers of poisonous trees without knowing the results of such attractions, unenlightened men are similarly attracted by such heavenly opulence and the sense enjoyment thereof. In the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, it is said, Apama Somam Amrita Abhuma and Akshayam ha vai Chaturmasya Yajinaha Sukritam Bhavet. In other words, those who perform the 4 month penances become eligible to drink soma rasa beverages, to become immortal and happy forever. Even on this earth, some are very eager to have soma rasa, to become strong and fit to enjoy sense gratifications. Such persons have no faith in liberation from material bondage, and they are very much attracted to the pompous ceremonies of Vedic sacrifices. They are generally sensual and they do not want anything other than heavenly pleasures of life. It is understood that there are gardens called Nandana Kanana in which there is good opportunity for association with angelic beautiful women and having a profuse supply of Somarasa wine. Such bodily happiness is certainly sensual. Therefore, there are those who are purely attached to such material temporary happiness as lords of the material world. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you. So, in the next verse, which is 44, Lord Krishna is going to talk about two things, Bhog and Aishwarya. Here, the spelling is not correct, coming properly because of the Sanskrit. So, Bhog and Aishwarya, right? Uh, let's have a discussion. What is wrong with living life king size and enjoying it to one's fullest extent or capacity if we do it in a lawful manner? Means we don't do something sinful, we don't cause any trouble to anyone else, and we follow all the rules of the Vedic scriptures, and we just enjoy life, like as they say, live life king size. So what's wrong with that if one has that mentality?
Prabhuji, if we don't know the purpose of the life, then it is waste.
If you don't know the,
Purpose of our life.
like, let's say I know the purpose of life also, then, but still, if I live like this, then what's wrong?
Prabhuji, that may not remain for permanent
So that
enjoyment.
enjoyment is not going to stay with us permanently. But as long as I can enjoy, what is the problem? Yeah, I know it's not going to stay
Not for
forever.
our enjoyment, right? We are here for the pleasure of the Lord. So we have to perform everything for the pleasure of the Lord and not for our pleasure.
But I may live the life king size and I can do everything for Krishna's pleasure also, no?
Prabhuji, but how long a person can enjoy? Like, and also at some point of time, the tastes vary. Like, at one point of time, you enjoy something, and at the other point of time, you enjoy another thing. So you
But
might
old
not
age
like
will
what
come.
you liked earlier.
Prabhuji,
Yeah,
main aim,
Prabhuji,
main aim,
at one point
Prabhuji,
of time,
Hari Bol.
one at a time, please. Don't talk together, no? Yes, Prabhuji, Sankarshan Vishnu Prabhu.
Main aim of the life is to lift our consciousness to Satogun. And from that we have to raise. If we enjoy in this manner, we will not be achieving the main purpose of the life, that is Satogun.
Okay. Okay, Abhay Sinha Prabhu, what do you have to say?
I feel that at one point of time, uh, a person may get old, and so he may not be able to enjoy at that means at that level.
Okay, yeah, means after some time, my body will not allow
Means
me
he
to
may not
enjoy. That's
remain
what you're trying to say.
young for.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Fine. So, okay. And if someone says, but I can use all that in Krishna Seva, then I'll use everything in Krishna
Then it's
Seva.
then
But
it's
then,
okay.
sorry.
Because then also we'll get entangled in karma, and then we have to take birth again and we'll not be able to go back to Godhead.
And if I use everything in Krishna Seva, why will I get entangled?
Then the person will stay in Krishna consciousness only, no, Prabhu. That's what we discussed.
A person should?
Just like
If person is doing everything in Krishna consciousness, then he will stay in Krishna consciousness only, right?
Okay.
Janak Maharaj ji.
Just like Janak Maharaj.
He was a king, but he was always in Krishna consciousness.
So he was living the life king size, no, Janak Maharaj.
Yes, yes.
So that's what the question is. What is the problem in living the life king size and enjoying it to one's fullest
There is
capacity?
always chance of falling down, Prabhu.
There's always chance of falling down. Okay. Yes.
But if we
So
have Krishna in the center, Prabhu, then
if you have
there is
Krishna
no.
in the center, then which will not fall down. Correct? Yes. So let's see what Krishna says in the next verse. Krishna will himself answer that point. Krishna is saying in verse number 44, Bhog Aishwarya Prasaktanang Tayapahirta Chetasam Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Samadho na Vidhiyate. In the minds of those who are too attached to two things, sense enjoyment and material opulence. Sense enjoyment means bhoga, material opulence means aishwarya. So those people are too attached to these two things and who are bewildered by such things. The resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Which means what? If we are running after these two things, then the determination to do bhakti nicely or purely, strongly will not come to our consciousness or in our heart. Such determination will not develop. Why? Because my mind is attracted elsewhere. And my intelligence is now planning how can I get it. So that resolute determination will not come. So too much attachment to sense gratification, too much attachment to opulence. There's a difference between what is your necessity and what is luxury, right? There's a difference between that. My necessities and a luxury. So if one is interested in luxury, there is no end to it. Correct? There is no end to it. Recently, someone was sharing with me that he wanted to buy a trolley bag. You know, a trolley bag, isn't it? So he went to an online store and try to find out the most expensive trolley bag, which was something like 50, 60,000 rupees, just a trolley bag. And he bought it. But the point is, do you really need that expensive trolley bag? No. The same work can also happen with a trolley bag coming in 7,000, 8,000 rupees easily, right? A very good quality trolley bag can also come in that amount. But then there is this unnecessary attraction towards something very expensive or most expensive. Then what do you call that? Do you call that as a necessity or you call that as a luxury?
Luxury.
It's a luxury. It's a luxury, correct? So when one's intelligence is attracted to such things, then one cannot do bhakti with determination. So too opulent life and too much sense gratification or enjoyment mentality. Then what happens is one's intelligence is always going around in that realm. How can I enjoy more, more, more? And one is always trying new varieties of enjoyment or sense gratification. One keeps on doing that, you know. Just like if you have too much money, you don't have anything to do with that money, then what do? You unnecessarily shop, right? Even if you don't want things, you shop because you have money. So where to use it, how to use it. So that determination will not be there in doing bhakti. Strong determination. Therefore, these two things are detrimental for one progressing in Krishna consciousness. Right? Resolute determination for devotional service does not take place. And that's the problem. There's no other problem. If one is bewildered by such things, if one is not bewildered, then no problem. Like, for example, Janak Maharaj example was given. Yudhishthir Maharaj example is given. Prahlad Maharaj example is given. They were kings. They were so wealthy. They were so opulent. But then they were not bewildered by that opulence. It did not affect them. But for someone who does not have such things and is striving to get those things, that person will definitely get bewildered on obtaining those things. Isn't it? So therefore, that is not good for devotional service or bhakti life. Translation we read, purport. Let's read the purport. Sankarshan Vishnu Prabhuji.
Samadhi means fixed mind. The Vedic dictionary, the Nirukti says, Samug Adhyate, Smin Atma Tattva Yathatmayam. In Samadhi, Samadhi is possible for person interested in material sense enjoyments and bewildered by such temporary things. They are more or less condemned by the process of material energy. Should I read further, Prabhuji? Haribol? Should I go ahead?
Oh, that much is the purport. Next verse. Trigunya Vishaya Veda Nistrigunya Bhavarjuna Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvastho Niryoga Shema Atmavan. The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. So he's saying, don't pay attention to Karma Kanda section, which is dealing with the three modes. Try to become transcendental to three modes. So being transcendental means not acting on material plane at all, which is not easy. One cannot immediately become transcendental. One has to slowly take the progressive steps. But that's what Krishna is ultimately desiring from Arjuna and from all of us as well, that we become transcendental. go beyond the bodily concept of life. Now, what is that bodily concept of life? That concept of life is full of dualities. When we are on the bodily platform, then there are a lot of dualities. Dualities like good and bad, heat and cold, happiness and suffering, liking and disliking. These are all dualities, friends and enemies, and free from all anxieties for gain and safety, which happens only on the bodily platform. On the spiritual platform, there is no anxiety for safety. Nothing can happen to one on spiritual level platform. So there's no anxiety for safety or gain. One doesn't need anything. So Krishna is saying that you should rise above all these bodily conceptions and become situated in the self, which means you should become situated in the realization I am spirit soul. I'm I'm eternal. Hmm. That's what Krishna is aiming for Arjuna to become. Purport. Priyanka Mataji.
Hare Krishna. All material activities involve actions and reactions in the three modes of material nature. Okay. They are meant for fruitive results, which cause bondage in the material world. The Vedas deal mostly with fruitive activities to gradually elevate the general public from the field of sense gratification to a position on the transcendental plane. Arjuna, as a student and the friend of Lord Krishna, is advised to raise himself to the transcendental position of Vedanta philosophy, wherein where in the beginning there is a Brahma Jigyasa or questions on the supreme transcendence. All the living entities who are in the material world are struggling very hard for existence. For them, the Lord, after creation of the material world, gave the Vedic wisdom advising how to live and get rid of material entanglement. When the activities for sense gratification, namely the Karmakand chapter, are finished, then the chance of spiritual realization is offered in the form of Upanishads, which are part of different Vedas. As the Bhagavad Gita is the part of the fifth Veda, namely the Mahabharata, the Upanishads mark the beginning of the transcendental life. As long as the material body exists, there are actions and reactions in the material modes. One has to learn tolerance in the face of dualities such as happiness and distress or cold and warmth. And by tolerating such dualities, become free from anxieties regarding gain and loss. This transcendental position is achieved in full Krishna consciousness when one is fully dependent on the goodwill of Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Next verse. Yavan artha udapane sarvatah samplutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanatah. So here now Krishna is giving a very nice analogy to explain to Arjuna how by just understanding a section of the Vedas, or you can say the purpose of the Vedas, you can know the entire Vedas. So this is a very nice analogy, something which is very essential for us to know, because sometimes one may think, I'm not studying the entire Vedas, I'm just studying Bhagavad-Gita. So is this enough for me? Or we are just studying some books? Is that enough for us? So it is so. Even if, let's say, we are not able to study all the books, but if we understand the main purpose of that knowledge, then we know everything. That's the point which is being explained here. And Krishna is giving an analogy, a very nice analogy. What is that? In the old times, when people used to live, let's say, in a village or a small town, then they, for their daily chores, they would need water, and they would collect that water from wells. So they would have different wells. Some well is used for collecting water for drinking. Some well is used for collecting water for taking bath. Some well is used for collecting water for washing the pots. Okay. Not that they would collect water from well for all the different things that one does. And there would be wells which would be used by Brahmanas. There would be wells which would be used just for worshipping the deity. Okay. So there one, if one needs to get water for different activities, one has to go to different wells. For one purpose, go to this well. For another purpose, go to another well. For third purpose, go to another well. But if in the same village or town, there is a river flowing, then for all the activities they need to do, they can get water from that one river. They don't have to go to different rivers. Just one river for bathing, for washing pots, for washing clothes, for doing worship of the deities. Everything is possible just by taking water from the river. So Krishna is saying that either you take this approach that I go to different sections of the Vedas for fulfilling my different desires, like going to different wells for getting water for doing different activities. Or you come to the main section of the Vedas, the actual purpose of the Vedas, which is what? To become Krishna conscious, to know Krishna, to understand Krishna, to become a servant of Krishna. And if you do that, if you have understood that as the goal of life, then you don't have to study the other sections of the Vedas, which are serving as wells. Then you don't have to study all that. You just know this much, that is sufficient, because now you know the main purpose of the Vedas. So he's saying in this translation, all purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. What is the purpose of the Vedas? Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita itself, Vedaischa sarver aham eva vedyaha. The purpose of the Vedas is to know me. Right? That's the purpose of the Vedas. So if one knows Krishna, then one doesn't have to study all the sections of the Vedas. That's not required. One has then fulfilled the purpose of the Vedas. You can understand from here, from this table, that wells are like demigods or karma kanda rituals, and the river or the lake is like Krishna or the process of bhakti, which is chanting of the holy names. So if we do this chanting or we do bhakti to Krishna, it's like going to the river, and we don't have to go to the wells then, which are like the demigods. Not required. Let's read the purport. Chanakya Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The rituals and sacrifices mentioned in the Karmakanda division of the Vedic literature are meant to encourage gradual development of self-realization. And the purpose of self-realization is clearly stated in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita 15.15. The purpose of studying the Vedas is to know Lord Krishna, the primeval cause of everything. So self-realization means understanding Krishna and one's eternal relationship with him. The relationship of the living entities with Krishna is also mentioned in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita 15.7. The living entities are parts and parcels of Krishna. Therefore, revival of Krishna consciousness by the individual living entity is the highest perfectional stage of Vedic knowledge. This is confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam 3.33.7 as follows. अहो बताश्वपचोऽतो गरियान् यज्जिह्वग्रे वर्तते नामतोऽभ्यम् ते पुस्तपस्ते जुहुः सस्नुरार्या ब्रह्मानुचो गृणन्ति ये ते. O my Lord, a person who is chanting your holy name, although born of a low family like that of a Chandala, dog eater, is situated on the highest platform of self-realization. Such a person must have performed all kinds of penances and sacrifices according to Vedic rituals and study the Vedic rituals many, many times after taking his bath in all the holy places of pilgrimage. Such a person is considered to be the best of the Aryan family. So one must be intelligent enough to understand the purpose of the Vedas without being attached to the rituals only, and must desire to be elevated to the heavenly kingdoms for a better quality of sense gratification. It is not possible for the common man in this age to follow all the rules and regulations of the Vedic rituals, nor is it possible to study all of the Vedanta and the Upanishads thoroughly. It requires much time, energy, knowledge, and resources to execute the purposes of the Vedas. This is hardly possible in this age. The best purpose of Vedic culture is served, however, by chanting the holy name of the Lord as recommended by Lord Chaitanya, the deliverer of all fallen souls. When Lord Chaitanya was asked by a great Vedic scholar, Prakashananda Saraswati, why he, the Lord, was chanting the holy name of the Lord like a sentimentalist instead of studying Vedanta philosophy, the Lord replied that his spiritual master had found him to be a great fool and thus asked him to chant the holy name of the Lord Krishna. He did so and became ecstatic like a madman. In this age of Kali, most of the population is foolish and not adequately educated to understand Vedanta philosophy. The best purpose of Vedanta philosophy is served by inoffensively chanting the holy name of the Lord. Vedanta is the last word in Vedic wisdom, and the author and knower of the Vedanta philosophy is Lord Krishna. And the highest Vedantist is the great soul who takes pleasure in chanting the holy name of the Lord. That is the ultimate purpose of all Vedic mysticism. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. So, what do we understand from the purport? What is being emphasized in the purport?
Chanting
Chanting of
Chanting of the holy names, yes. Chanting of Krishna's names. He's saying, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that to chant Krishna's names is actually more important than studying the Vedas. Isn't it? Hmm? And that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied to Prakashanand Saraswati. He was a scholar, Mayavadi scholar. He came to meet Sri Chaitanya with 60,000 disciples, right? And he asked Chaitanya, you are a sannyasi, and sannyasi, you should be studying, and what you should study Vedanta. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, I'm a fool. My spiritual master told me I'm a fool. He's not a fool, but he's just acting there like a humble, ordinary person. Say, I'm a fool, and therefore my spiritual master told me you just chant. Isn't it? Now, by telling this to Prakashanand Saraswati, what was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu indirectly telling him? He was telling him, you are a Vedanta scholar. You have thousands of disciples. You have been studying for years and years. But still you became attracted to my spiritual transcendental effulgence. That's why Prakashananda came to meet Chaitanya, because he saw that this sannyasi is very young, but he's shining like a sun. So he could see that spiritual effulgence coming out of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hmm? One spiritual caliber or one spiritual advancement can be actually seen by the aura that one carries around oneself. And those who are very spiritually pure and advanced, they carry a very strong aura around themselves. Right? So when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's aura was seen by Prakashananda Saraswati, he understood that this person is not ordinary. He has such a bright aura around him. And though he has such a bright aura around him, he's not studying the Vedanta, he's just chanting the holy names. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I'm a fool and I'm chanting the holy names. But though I'm a fool and I'm chanting the holy names, my spiritual realization is better than your realization. That's why I'm carrying such a brighter aura than you. So indirectly, he was telling, I'm not a fool if I'm chanting the holy names. Right? I'm not a fool. Because the holy names, that name of Krishna is non-different from Krishna. And the purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. So if I'm chanting the holy names, actually I'm doing the best Vedic study, isn't it? Correct? Hmm? So therefore, here in the purport, Prabhupada is explaining like that. So if we should just chant the holy names, and the chanting of holy names is the highest thing, why are we studying the scriptures? Like, why are we studying Bhagavad Gita as it is?
To improve our chanting
Okay. And
For our purification.
To increase our faith in the process of chanting.
okay. Yes, so all of that is correct. To increase our faith in the process of chanting, uh, to become more fixed in our understanding of the process of Krishna consciousness. So we are studying here not just to study, but we are studying here to basically strengthen our practice of Krishna consciousness. Isn't it? Hmm? So it's not useless. Sometimes there are people who will say, no, all the study is just useless. You just chant the holy name. No, the study is not useless, because if it was useless, Prabhupada would not have written so many books. Isn't it? Srila Prabhupada would not have written so many books. So he did not write the books for just distribution so that iskcon can earn some money. No, he did not write the books because he did not have anything else to do and therefore he was just passing his time. No, he gave the books so that people become convinced about the process of Krishna consciousness. So we study, but after we study, we also apply in the practice, which means we should chant nicely, or we should at least improve our chanting. And that chanting will help us to digest all that we study. In one place, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that you chant the holy name of Krishna and you study Bhagavad Gita nicely. That will help you make progress in Krishna consciousness. I said that. So that your chanting will help you understand the knowledge, and the knowledge will help you to chant with greater faith and determination. And that will make you progress in Krishna consciousness. So we do that. We follow that process. Okay. Okay. So far, in the verses which we read from 41 to 46, we were being told about Bhakti Yoga concepts. Now, in the verses which we'll be reading, 47 to 53, the concept of Nishkam Karma Yoga is explained. Okay. But both of these, they fall in the category of Buddhi Yoga. Whether it is Nishkama Karma Yoga or it is Bhakti Yoga, they both fall in the category of Buddhi Yoga. In the last verse of chapter 2, in verse number 72, in the last paragraph, Srila Prabhupada mentions that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given this chapter the title of Gita Sar, or summary of the Bhagavad Gita, because this chapter of Bhagavad Gita talks about all the subject matters of Bhagavad Gita: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Nishkama Karma Yoga. Also, a glimpse of Bhakti Yoga is given in this chapter. So, what is that glimpse of Bhakti Yoga given in this chapter? These verses: Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, Ekeha Kurunandana. That is glimpse of Bhakti Yoga. You know, just a little bit about Bhakti is given here.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Prabhuji,
Yes, sir.
Vyasaya, should I go ahead?
Yeah, please.
Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, this particular word has been used in two shlokas. That is 44, and the previous one, that is
Divine.
41. So how we can differentiate in both the words in this? There
They
it is
both are
both
related. In the verse 41, what is Vyavasayatmika Buddhi is explained. And in verse number 44, the obstacles on the path of developing this Vyavasayatmika Buddhi is given.
Here it is obstacle and here it is explained.
What is Vyavasayatmika Buddhi? 44 talks about obstacles. These two things are obstacles on the path of Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, Bhog and Aishwarya. Okay. So now next verse 47, which is a very common verse, very popular verse. So many people in India know this verse and they chant also. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala hetur bhur ma te sangostu karmani. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, you have a duty to perform, and that's your adhikar, that's your right. So you have a right. You are a kshatriya, you should fight. No one is stopping you from fighting. You should do your duties. But at the same time, ma phaleshu kadachana. You should not do your duties to get the results of that duty, full action, the fruits. Ma phaleshu. Why you should not desire the results? Because the results, they belong to me, not you. They are my property, not your property. So therefore, ma karma phala hetu bhur. Do not consider yourself the result uh, bringer, like because of my hard work, the result came. Don't think like that. Don't think that you are the doer. You are the only cause of your results. And then what you should do? You give the results to me. And then if Arjuna says, I work hard, I give the results to you, then why should I work? And which is like a bit of a selfish mentality. Why should I do that work? So then Krishna is saying, Mate Sango Astu Akarmani. Don't become attached to not doing your duties, which means you cannot give up your duties. So this is the concept of Nishkama Karma. I must do my duties. At the same time, I should not do it for my personal interest. I should do that for Krishna's interest, not for my personal interest. It's easy said than done, but this is what Krishna is explaining here. Like to give you an example, I'm a student, I should study. But should I study for my personal interest? Or should I study for Krishna? Similarly, someone wants to get married, so that person gets married, but gets married for what reason? For one's own personal interest or for the sake of serving Krishna, right? Someone builds a house. So build the house for what purpose? For one's personal interest or for the purpose of serving Krishna? So Krishna is saying here that you do what you're supposed to do. You must work, but not for your own interest, for your own sake. You do it for my sake. But then if you are told like that, don't do it for yourself, do it for Krishna. First thing, it's very difficult to accept such a thing. It's very difficult. And let's say if I accept also, because in my mind, I know very well now I am not doing it for myself, I am doing it for Krishna. I may not do it wholeheartedly. Why? Because my personal selfish desires are not getting fulfilled in that, isn't it? Give you a very simple example. You're studying this course, you may be working very hard, making notes and all that. But then if someone tells you, okay, you make the notes, you work very hard, and then you don't use the notes, you give it to someone else to use. You'll say, then forget it, I don't make the notes anyway. I won't make the notes. Why should I make the notes then? That enthusiasm to do the same activity goes down when you have to do that activity for someone else. Right? So therefore, Krishna is telling Arjuna, don't become lazy. Don't think now you'll not do your work. You should do your work. You can't give up your work. Mhm. But you do it for me. Now, this is called Nishkama karma. This is called Nishkama karma. You must work. Well, let's hear what is the conversation going on between Krishna and Arjuna, as is given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Arjuna may give an argument. Since I am not this body, I need not work. So Krishna may say then, no, you have to work, but you should not desire to enjoy the fruits of your activities. If I want to enjoy, what will happen? You will become the cause of the activity. So, what's wrong with that? Then you'll be bound by the result of the activity. Or perhaps then it's better than that I do nothing. That is not allowed, Krishna says. So then how should I do it? Krishna will say, do it for me. Do it for me. That's what Krishna is saying to Arjuna. Do it. You fight, but you fight for me. And this is a very nice definition for dutiful, detached action. You can maybe note it down. Very nice. You can think about it later, comprehend it, contemplate over it. Dutiful work is defined as what it is defined as? Dispassionate. Dispassionate means what? What is dispassionate? You don't have your material, selfish desires behind it. Dispassionate. Proper actions in which the performance is its own reward. You're understanding? The performance is its own reward. That means I like to do that activity, and just getting a chance to do that activity is itself a reward for me. Not that I am desiring something out of that activity. Okay. Hmm? So if I am studying Bhagavad Gita as it is, desiring to get a certificate, then it will not be called as dispassionate work done with the done with the desire to uh, done with the attitude of the performance of the work itself being the reward of the work. No, correct? Isn't it? Hmm? So that's a very nice definition here of Nishkama spirit of work. You do the work for the sake of doing the work. That's all. Fine. Like, for example, I'll give you a very simple example. You go to a temple, let's say, you go to a temple, and a pujari is there worshipping the deities. Now, when you go to a temple and you're taking darshan of the deities and you see a pujari worshipping the deities, uh, what do you see? What do you see? You see that pujari just being dutiful. He is supposed to worship the deity at that time of the day and he's doing his duty, correct? Right? Isn't it? Hmm? Now, if the pujari comes to you and says that because I am worshipping this deity, you all people, you came here to take darshan of this deity, and I am worshipping this deity. So now you should all give me some money, 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees, whatever. Hmm? So what will your mind say in that situation? Even if you don't vocally express your mind, something will come in your mind. And what will be that? After all, you're just doing your duty, right? Why are you asking money for it? It's your duty. You are a pujari. Your duty is to to the puja, to the aarti for the Lord. So for that sake, why are you asking us money? You know, that's a part of your duty. So when that person starts expecting, no, because I am serving the deity of the Lord, therefore you all should give me some money for it, then immediately in our mind we develop some kind of, uh, you can say some kind of
Negative.
disliking towards that person, because in our mind we know that no, this is just your duty. Why should you be asking for that? Should not, because you are getting your salary as a pujari. No, you are getting paid anyway for it. Now, why you are asking this extra thing? Correct? Hmm? So similarly, uh, here it's being explained that just for the sake of working, you work without you desiring something of it, of that work as a reward. Then that is called Nishkama Karma Yoga. Okay, now our present culture or our present lifestyle, it doesn't allow us to work like that always. We know earlier the civilization was based on barter system. You heard of barter system? Barter system. I do
Yes.
my work, I give the fruits to you. You do your work and you share the fruits with me. That was called barter system, isn't it? Like, for example, if there is a Brahmana teacher in a Gurukul, he will teach the kids of a farmer without taking any fee. But the farmers, they would give grains to the Brahmana, which is the result of their fruit, right? Endeavor, correct? So that was the barter system. So in that barter system, it was more easy to practice this kind of attitude in everything one did. But since the time of this monetary exchange has come, that everything I do, I take money for it. Now, then this spirit of being Nishkam is very difficult to practice. Very difficult to practice. But still one can do that. To some extent, one can definitely try to do that. You know, dispassionately performing one's work. Okay. Next, we'll read the purport of this. Let's read the purport. Tulasi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Pranam. Purport. There are three considerations here: prescribed duties, capricious work, and inaction. Prescribed duties are activities enjoined in terms of one's acquired modes of material nature. Capricious work means actions without the sanction of authority, and inaction means not performing one's prescribed duties. The Lord advised that Arjuna not be inactive, but that he perform his prescribed duties without being attached to the results. One who is attached to the result of his work is also the cause of the action. Thus, he is the enjoyer or sufferer of the results of the actions. As far as prescribed duties are concerned, they can be fitted into three subdivisions, namely routine work, emergency work, and desired activities. Routine work performed as an obligation in terms of the scriptural injunctions without desire for results is action in the mode of goodness. Work with results becomes the cause of bondage. Therefore, such work is not auspicious. Everyone has his proprietary right in regard to prescribed duties, but should act without attachment to the result. Such disinterested obligatory duties doubtlessly lead one to the path of liberation. Arjuna was therefore advised by the Lord to fight as a matter of duty without attachment to the result. His non-participation in the battle is another side of attachment. Such attachment never leads one to the path of salvation. Any attachment, positive or negative, is cause for bondage. Inaction is sinful. Therefore, fighting as a matter of duty was the only auspicious path of salvation for Arjuna. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes. So there are three types of work. Let's look at the slide. Prescribed duties. It's in Sanskrit, it's called karma. Capricious work, it's called vikarma. And inaction is called akarma. So prescribed duties are of three types: routine, emergency, and desired. In Sanskrit, that is called nitya, naimittika, and kamya. Okay, nitya, naimittika, kamya. Routine means nitya, emergency means it's a translation of naimittika, and desired means kamya. We know vikarma is sinful, right? So we should not engage in vikarma. Akarma, doing nothing, is that allowed? Doing nothing? Doing nothing, is that allowed? Like I should not do anything at all, no work, no duties, nothing. That is also not allowed. Hmm? That's also not allowed. So here, a karma can have two meanings. One is a karma can also mean bhakti, or a karma which doesn't give result. We are not talking about that karma. We are talking about inaction. Inaction means someone who is not doing anything at all, lazy, inactive, escaping one's duties. So both vikarma and akarma, they are not going to help us get liberated from material life. Correct? Both will cause bondage, isn't it? But then when you talk about prescribed duty or karma, it's of three types: nitya, naimittika, and kamya. So when we perform our nitya karma means those things which you are supposed to do as a duty. It's an obligation without desire for results. Then that leads to liberation. When we do our duties with the desire to enjoy the results, even that leads to bondage. Like Arjuna's duty is to fight as a Kshatriya, but if he fights to enjoy the kingdom, he is going to become bound by those duties. So therefore, duties are also dangerous in one sense. They still keep us bound to material life, but then we can't give up duties. So we have to execute those duties with the desire of pleasing or serving Krishna. That's the point. Someone has to be a good wife. Be a good wife, but then be a good wife to please Krishna. Someone has to be a good husband. Be a good husband, but be a good husband to please Krishna. Someone has to be a good parent. Be a good parent, but be a good parent to please Krishna. Anything, any duty. Okay. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that Arjuna was therefore advised by the Lord to fight as a matter of duty without attachment to the result. His non-participation in the battle is another side of attachment. Such attachment never leads one to the path of salvation. Any attachment, positive or negative, is cause for bondage. Inaction is sinful. Therefore, fighting as a matter of duty was the only auspicious path of salvation for Arjuna. So, performing something as a matter of duty, we may not be able to do that in our professional life, but at least when it comes to serving Krishna or doing some seva in the temple, then we can adopt that attitude while doing the service in the temple, isn't it? That I should do it just as a matter of duty and not for getting something in return. Nishkama bhav, correct? So that should be adopted. At least when it comes to serving the Supreme Lord, or it comes to serving one's spiritual master, it comes to serving the Vaishnavas, the devotees, then we can adopt this attitude of being completely nishkam. In one's professional life, one cannot do that. Otherwise, how will one earn his livelihood? Difficult, isn't it? But at least when we are dealing with the Supreme Lord, dealing with the spiritual master, dealing with devotees, then we can try it as much as possible. At least when we are dealing with devotees, we can try as much as possible to do things as a matter of seva, as something which I am doing without wanting anything in return. That's going to be very helpful. Nishkam spirit. Next verse. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhi asiddhayo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Perform your duty equipoised, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. So when one acts in this consciousness, this is called yoga. This is called yoga. Srila Prabhupada, something was noticed about him by his disciples, that whether he spoke to one or two people sitting in front of him for hours, or he spoke to thousands of people sitting in front of him, he spoke with the same energy. Now, what does that mean? For him, the audience and the number of people in the audience was not an impetus. Right? He would do it with the same energy, with the same interest. So, like that, you're just taking these examples to help us understand what is that mentality. Being equanimous in situations and doing it with the same interest. Purport. Let's read the purport. Arati Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Krishna tells Arjuna that he should act in yoga. And what is that yoga? Yoga means to concentrate the mind upon the Supreme by controlling the ever-disturbing senses. And who is the Supreme? The Supreme is the Lord. And because he himself is telling Arjuna to fight, Arjuna has nothing to do with the results of the fight. Gain or victory or Krishna's concern. Arjuna is simply advised to act according to the dictation of Krishna. The following of Krishna's dictation is real yoga, and that is practiced in the process called Krishna consciousness. By Krishna consciousness, only can one give up the sense of proprietorship. One has to become the servant of Krishna or the servant of Krishna. That is the right way to discharge duty in Krishna consciousness, which alone can help one to act in yoga. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and as such, he is participating in the Varnashrama Dharma institution. It is said in the Vishnu Purana that in the Varnashrama Dharma, the only aim is to satisfy Vishnu. No one should satisfy himself, as is the rule in the material world, but one should satisfy Krishna. So, unless one satisfies Krishna, one cannot correctly observe the principles of Varnashrama Dharma. Indirectly, Arjuna was advised to act as Krishna told him. Thank you.
Yes, and that's the best state of action. One is working directly by being told by Krishna what one should do. In case we don't have Krishna to tell us what one should do, then we can have a representative of Krishna tell us that what one should do, or what we should do. And working in that spirit is highest form of yoga. Next verse, 49. Durena hi avaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddhau sharanam anvicha kripanaha phalahethavaha. O Dhananjay, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. So don't become a miser. Arjuna was saying, right, in the verse 2.7, I hope you have memorized that verse. Karpanya dosho pahatsabhavaha krichhami tvam dharma samudha chetaha. So he's saying Karpanya dosha. I am afflicted by this fault of being miserly. So Krishna is telling here, don't become miserly, Arjuna. What is that miserliness? Kripanaha phala hetavaha. That miserliness is being explained by Krishna as to work and then to desire the results of the work just for oneself. That's miserliness. It's just for me, and it's miserliness. It's just for me. That is miserliness. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. Right? That should not happen. It's just like I'll give you an example. Let's say there's a team of players, uh, who are playing a cricket match, and the team wins. So after the team wins, if one of the players says that uh, we all won because of me alone, and therefore the entire prize of winning should come to me alone, what will you tell that person? If one of the players says, it's all because of me, and all the prize should come to me.
He's a miser then.
Yeah, it's a miser. Why? Because you're not sharing. And it's not that because of you alone the team won. It won because of the team effort, correct? Mhm. See, one thing, I worked hard and therefore whatever is the result is mine. But hello, who gave you the strength to work? Who gave you the intelligence to work? Who gave you the ingredients to work? Krishna. Right? Mhm. So therefore Krishna is saying such people are misers, and therefore Arjuna, you don't become miser. Purport. Let's read the purport. Who wants to read the purport?
Right.
Yes,
I read?
Ramaji. Yes.
One who has actually come to understand one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Lord gives up all engagements save working in Krishna consciousness. As already explained, Buddhi Yoga means transcendental loving service to the Lord. Such devotional service is the right course of action for the living entity. Only misers desire to enjoy the fruit of their own work, just to be further entangled in material bondage. Except for except for work in Krishna consciousness, all activities are abnormal because they continually bind the worker to the cycle of the birth and death. One should therefore never desire to be the cause of work. Everything should be done in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the Krishna. Misers do not know how to utilize the assets of riches which they acquire by good fortune or by hard labor. One should spend all energies working in Krishna consciousness, and that will make one's life successful. Like misers, unfortunate persons do not employ their human energy in the service of the Lord.
Srila Prabhupada talks very straightforwardly here. He says that misers do not know how to utilize the assets of riches which they acquire by good fortune or by hard labor. They should use it all in Krishna's service. In Krishna consciousness. And that will make one's life successful. So it boils down to a very simple meaning or explanation. What is that? Whatever I have, whether I have inherited it from my parents, my grandparents, from someone else, I have obtained it, or I have obtained it by doing some work, some hard work. I should use all of that in the service of Krishna. Right? That's a very simple meaning of what is being explained here. Everything I have, I should use it for service of Krishna. Whether I have acquired it by my hard work or whether I have obtained it just because of some good fortune, it should be used in Krishna Seva. Directly or indirectly, some way or other. Right? So that's what is being explained. That will make one's human energy successful because one has used that energy in the right manner. Buddhi-yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita dushkrite tasmad yogaya yujyasva yoga karma sukaushalam. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions, even in this life. So this is one advantage of Buddhi Yoga, one benefit, that by acting in this way, one will become free from good and bad, everything. And therefore strive for yoga, which is the art of all work. Therefore, you should work in that spirit. Sri Lakshmi Mataji, please read the purport here.
Hare Krishna. Since time immemorial, each living entity has accumulated the various reactions of his good and bad work. As such, he is continuously ignorant of his real constitutional position. One's ignorance can be removed by the instructions of Bhagavad-Gita, which teaches one to surrender unto Lord Krishna in all respects and become liberated from his chained victimization of action and reaction, birth after birth. Arjuna is therefore advised to act in Krishna consciousness, the purifying process of resultant action. Hare Krishna.
So that's the first benefit of Buddhi Yoga. Here we are going to learn 4 benefits of Buddhi Yoga. In this verse, we come across the first one, freedom from both good and bad reactions, even in this life. When you do regular work in the spirit of attachment, it entangles the soul. When you do the same thing in the spirit of detachment and being dutiful, it liberates the soul. Do we have to change what we are doing? We don't have to change what we are doing. You just have to change the attitude of doing it. Whatever we are doing, if it's not wrong, it's the right thing, we can continue to do it. But we have to change the attitude behind doing it. Working in a dutiful, detached manner. And this is a very nice excerpt from a lecture by Srila Prabhupada. We'll read this. Use God-given resources well. We have to decide, shall I work for sense gratification or shall I work for the satisfaction of the Supreme? If the later, then our life becomes spiritualized. Spiritual life does not mean that we have to change the activities in which we are already engaged or that our body will change to something extraordinary. The same body, the same features, the same activities, the same engagement. Everything remains the same. But we have to decide whether our activities will be done from the spiritual platform or from the material platform. It makes it very easy, right? You don't have to really change so much. It's just that the attitude. Why am I doing it? For whom am I doing it? Therefore, this is a small exercise we can do. Make a list of all the resources you have, like your body, the wealth, the job, etc., the opportunities you have, the skills you have, that you have received from God, and then how you can best use those resources in Krishna Seva. You can elaborate on that. So this is something which you can do for yourself. What all you have given to you by Krishna, and how can you use all of that in Krishna Seva? It's a very simple thing. We have whatever we have. We don't have to give up that thing or those things. But how can we use it for Krishna Seva? That's the point. Right. Yes, Sri Lakshmi Mataji, you have something to say?
No, Prabhuji, I just raised for reading the purport again.
Okay. Fine. So this is a small exercise we can do at our free time sometime, and think of how we can use everything we have in Krishna Seva. Right? All right, so we'll stop here. We will continue with the remaining verses in the next class. Any questions or comments from today's session?
Prabhuji, mind is
I can hear you.
Mind is so clever that directly or indirectly it says that whatever you are doing is doing for the Krishna Seva.
Sorry, mind is so
clever, so that it decides that whatever you are doing is you are doing for the Krishna Seva.
Yes, the mind
Directly or
can be like
indirectly.
that. Yes, Prabhu, the mind can be like that, or the mind can function in that way. But then we have to therefore do things under guidance, no? We have to do things in guidance. If we don't do things in guidance, then there'll be problem.
For example, donation to a temple is there. The mind says, suppose you are giving someone to the poor, and instead of giving to a temple, you give it to the poor one.
Why? Then you have to tell the mind using your intelligence that this is not correct. You have to tell your mind, no? Either you should be intelligent enough to use your intelligence to control the mind, or you should ask or inquire from someone whether I should do this or I should not do this. We can't depend on our own mind, because if we depend heavily on our own mind, that mind will cheat anyway, because our mind is not controlled yet. For someone whose mind is controlled, that person is always communicating with Paramatma or Super Soul. So that person will not get cheated. But someone whose mind is not controlled, the mind will cheat. Therefore, we inquire or we borrow the intelligence from those who know better.
I will discuss afterwards.
Okay. Any other question? No, so we stop here. See you in the next week. We'll have a holiday. Janmashtami is there. Srila Prabhupada appearance day is also there. So next week we'll have a holiday. We'll meet after 2 weeks. Thank you very much.